You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The views expressed by the individuals during this broadcast are their own opinions, and they may not be the same as those of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Oh yeah, baby, that's lovely.
Good morning, it's May the 15th, and welcome to Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News. Good morning, Rev Cindy. How you doing?
Good morning. I got my phone put down like 2 seconds too late, but that's okay. I'm here.
That's all right. That's all right. We're good. We're good. So, what's new and exciting before we get into the news?
What's new and exciting? Well, gosh, there's so much. I'm still reeling on Amsterdam.
Like you are.
I chatted with Steve last week or this week, I should say, on Mushy Moment. We, instead of finding a guest, we just wanted to talk about Amsterdam. So we told a few stories there. So if you want to hear a few stories, just go look at this week's show. And Steve asked me a bunch of questions, and I did my best to answer them.
Well,
so yeah, that's still new for me, even though we talked about it on Monday. So
yeah, and people would be curious. We hear all these different stories of what's going on over in Amsterdam, whether there's pilot studies going on in this town or that town, whether it's legal cannabis, illegal cannabis, what's it like, coffee shops being shut down to tourists and stuff. So your experience, it would be good for people to hear.
The coffee houses are all open for tourists. They love us. The thing with the coffee shops or the coffee houses, there used to be over 1,000, and now there's about 250. That's the big thing. That's just regulations and taxes and whatnot. Shut them down. Red tape, right?
Right.
People didn't want to cut through it. They didn't bother. So it went really downhill. But let me tell you, with 250 coffee houses in Amsterdam, there's more than enough. I had trouble keeping up with them all.
Well, there you go. There you go. Got them coming out. Got them coming out of everybody's yin yang.
Yeah,
and they thought they had it bad in Toronto with cannabis stores on every corner.
Yeah. Amsterdam is amazing. So if you can ever make it, I highly suggest going.
All righty. Good to know. All right. Maybe. You just never know. Put it on my bucket list. So, all right. Time for us to get into the news. Here we go. First story's up.
Yes, coming to us from Mugglehead Magazine. This one caught my eye. Residents of Turkish town get engulfed in an intoxicating cloud of cannabis smoke.
Caught my eye as well. And that was because, you would read these reports in newspapers about the police, destroying cannabis and burning it. You think, geez, I wish I lived downwind from that smoke.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It's happened here in Nova Scotia back in the 90s. There was a home grow or, illegal grow going on. The cops busted it, and they took everything they found after the court case was open and went to a facility in Hansport and piled it all up and burned it. And although you couldn't get high from the air, you could definitely smell it in the air from indoors.
Well, as you can see, I've left this picture here. This is the fire, the look of the fire from above. And it spells the name of the town, Lice. So, unsuspecting citizens of a small town in Turkey got involuntarily stoned last month after local police got the bright idea to burn 20 tons of seized illicit cannabis in the center of Lice, which is a town within a province there. I'm not going to be able to pronounce that word. The incident occurred on April the 18th and started to attract media attention this week. The massive quantity of chronic is estimated to be valued at about $261 million US, was collected by Turkish law enforcement throughout 2023 and last year.
Wow. Wow. 20 tons. Holy.
20 tons.
They only had a few pounds here in Hansport years ago. So 20 tons.
That's it. So that picture, that's 20 tons of cannabis on fire. Wow.
I'm going to stop saying wow now. Several locals in the town of approximately 25,000 felt dizzy, nauseous, and even claimed to have experienced hallucinations as a result of the cannabis smoke plume. Wow. For days, we couldn't open our windows. One very upset local said, our children got sick. We're constantly going to the hospital.
Local outrage about the unpleasant incident was amplified by the fact that the cops decided to arrange the bundles of cannabis to spell the town's name before setting it ablaze. They also used a couple hundred liters of diesel fuel.
Wonder why everybody was sick.
As an accelerant. Exactly. Many consider this to be quite foolish and unprofessional. Of course. Hundreds of liters of diesel fuel. Wow. No wonder people were
There's
sick.
a lot of wows in this story, isn't there?
There is.
Yaye Auger, who is a concerned local, says, while the operations conducted by the security forces are commendable, for strike a significant blow to production and street dealers, burning the cannabis in the city center is unprofessional.
Yeah.
I'm going to agree with you. I think that's how they pronounce the name.
Yeah, imagine going downtown Toronto and having the police burn all of the cannabis that they confiscated.
I mean, especially with the diesel fuel, because I'm sitting there going, okay, well, some of that sounds like, like decent, like some dizziness, especially if you're not used to it, worried about the children getting sick. But the diesel fuel, well, no wonder the kids got sick, and no wonder people were hallucinating. That makes complete sense now, right? Residents were plagued by lingering effects of the THC infused bonfire for at least 5 days after it occurred. And if you put in the fact that they had a quote unquote couple hundred liters of diesel, not just gas, but diesel fuel. Yeah,
exactly. They don't mention that it should say diesel infused bonfire.
Exactly.
Now, they prescribed medical cannabis for the treatment of severe health conditions has been legal in Turkey since 2016. Aside from that, flower and derivatives are highly illegal, and getting caught with even small quantities can get you 2 to 5 years in prison. Now, the province where the town of Limestone is situated is known to be a hotbed for illegal cultivation operations. It is estimated that 2/3 of the nation's illicit cannabis is grown there, and the Lice district in particular.
So when visiting Turkey, we want to go to Lice. This is where Lice is a good thing.
That's where Lice is a good thing. Yeah, correct. It's just too bad that their federal laws are nasty.
Oh, yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. Okay, so you've got this town, burnt all the cannabis, all that stuff, got the smell going about, and up next, our next story.
Yeah, coming to us from Newsbook Malta, a euro 235 euro fine introduced for cannabis smell nuisance.
This sort of goes. Obviously, they don't have that law in Turkey, but if they did,
and the cops would be in trouble.
Yeah. Now, amendments to Malta's cannabis legislation have introduced new fines for those whose cannabis consumption causes odor disturbances to others, following unanimous parliamentary approval earlier this week. The revised laws, which await the president's signature before coming into effect, will allow authorities to impose a euro 235 euro penalty on individuals whose cannabis smoke creates a nuisance to third parties through odor emissions, regardless of whether consumption occurs in private residences.
I got 2 words for you: smoke buddy. It's going to save you all kinds of money.
I had another 2 words, but go ahead.
Yeah. Under the 2021 cannabis reform, smoking was permitted in private homes but prohibited in public spaces. Pardon me. The new amendments expand enforcement capabilities, targeting not only public consumption, but also private use that impacts neighbors through smell. Joey Reno Vela, who's the executive chairperson of the Authority of the Responsible Use of Cannabis, explained that the change addresses numerous complaints from residents disturbed by cannabis odors from neighboring properties.
Yeah. Now, Vela says that a lot of people were smoking on their balconies and annoying people who lived above them. This is the right to consume cannabis in your private residence will remain, but you cannot exercise that right of being a nuisance to others. Now, he has suggested using users consider carbon air filtration systems to mitigate odor. So.
Yes, yeah, well, which is what a smoke buddy is, right?
Yeah, and I know that when it comes to condos, here anyways, people have complained about even though your condo is separate from the next one, the smell is still getting through to the next unit.
Yeah, and and there's all kinds of things out there to help mitigate that. So yeah, the legislation also establishes stricter rules for cannabis cultivation with fines between 300 and 500 euro for plants that are visible, emit disturbing odors, or remain accessible to minors.
So yeah, plants are visible. So that's balcony. So BC has that law. You can't be visible. So right. Cannabis associations face significantly increased penalties with fines for allowing underage members rising from the previous 500 to 1,000 euros to 3,000 to 10,000 euros. Maximum penalties for serious breaches have escalated from 10,000 euros to 50,000, or double the value of the illicit proceeds, whichever is higher.
Additionally, the amendments transfer jurisdiction over cannabis association offenses from tribunals to the Court of Magistrates, reflecting their serious nature. The legislative changes also clarify the legal definition of cannabis to distinguish between psychoactive cannabinoids and non-psychoactive substances like CBD, bringing Maltese law into alignment with European Union jurisprudence.
ARUC has received expanded regulatory powers, becoming what Junior Minister Rebecca Buttigieg described as a one-stop shop for the enforcement of cannabis regulations. The authority will now oversee enforcement against unlicensed commercial operations, advertising, or selling cannabis products, in addition to its existing association oversight role. So there you go. 235 euro fine for smelling
like cannabis.
Smelling like cannabis.
Well, yeah. Really, for it's not for personally smelling like cannabis. Like, I mean, if you were like sitting on your deck and it's the smoke going to your neighbor's deck that seems to be bothersome.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously you can't consume in public. They said that there. So there's no walking down the street with a doobie.
Can't take it to the beach.
And if you're smoking, can't take it to the beach. And can't smoke in your own place if it's going to bother your neighbor. So, just see what happens. So, see, who knows? Maybe we'll get in a couple of weeks. We'll find a bunch of people have been charged, and people are outraged over that new law. So,
we shall see.
We shall see. All right, we'll get our next story all lined up. And this one here, we're heading south. We're heading to the U.S. for the next story, and it is ready.
It is ready. Coming to us from MSN. Trump cabinet used same illegal psychedelic to find love that Prince Harry admitted to using.
Casey Means, President Trump's cabinet pick for Surgeon General, spoke favorably about the use of psychedelic mushrooms to help treat her mental anxiety and find love. Means wrote about the use of psychedelic mushrooms therapy in her 2024 book, Good Energy. Oh, don't be jumping around on me here now, screen. Where she said she personally experienced the benefits of the treatment.
Yes. If you feel called, I also encourage you to explore intentional guided psilocybin therapy, she wrote. Strong scientific evidence suggests that this psychedelic therapy can be one of the most meaningful experiences of life for some people, as they have been for me. In one of her newsletters, Means revealed that taking mushrooms was one of the 9 steps she took to find love at the age of 35.
I did plant medicine experiences with trusted guides who wrote extensively about my experience and insights. She wrote, adding that mushroom emojis to illustrate what she was talking about. She also revealed her experience in a book about taking mushrooms for the first time.
Psilocybin can be a doorway to a different reality that is free from the limiting beliefs of my ego, feelings, and personal history, she wrote. The experience, she said, helped her break from previous patterns.
I felt myself as part of an infinite and unbroken series of cosmic nesting dolls of millions of mothers and babies before me from the beginning of life, she wrote. Psilocybin is legal under federal law as it is listed as a Schedule 1 drug.
But a growing number of celebrities, podcasters, and champions of alternative medicine are sharing anecdotal stories about how hallucinogens help them move past their traumatic experiences. Prince Harry revealed his use of psychedelics to help treat his past traumas, especially surrounding the death of his mother.
Psychedelics did me some good as well. I'd experimented with them over the years for fun, but now I'd begun to use them therapeutically, medicinally, he wrote. They didn't simply allow me to escape reality for a while. They let me redefine reality. Now, the use of psychedelic mushrooms is frequently promoted by health advocates in the Make America Healthy Again movement, pioneered by John F. Kennedy, as an alternative-based, plant-based medicine to treat medical anxiety and addiction.
Podcaster Joe Rogan routinely mentions the benefits of rescheduling cannabis and psychedelic psilocybin for medical research, citing successful anecdotal testimonies and treatments for veterans. He also promotes other psychedelic medicines. During the 2024 campaign, Rogan spoke with J.D. Vance about the issue during their October 31st interview.
He says, I know a bunch of different guys that have gone down to Mexico and had psilocybin journeys and all these different things where they've encountered these experiences that have made them sort of rethink who they are. Now, former Navy SEAL Sean Ryan, now a prominent podcaster, shared his personal experience of 2 psilocybin journeys that took place over several days, helping him move beyond the use of sleep meds, anxiety treatment drugs, and Adderall.
Wow. I went down a skeptic and came out a completely different person. The person I am supposed to be, Ryan said afterwards. Means' brother, Callie Means, is now an entrepreneur who has said he was so impressed by psychedelics that he invested in companies that are researching the benefits of those treatments.
Trump's appointment of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as his Health and Human Services has raised hopes among investors of psilocybin-based treatments that it could get removed from government classification as a Section 1 drug to a Section 3 drug, allowing it to be researched for health benefits. Now, during his failed 2024 presidential campaign, Kennedy endorsed the freedom to use psychedelic drugs for treatment.
I would legalize psychedelic medicines, some form of legalization, he said, adding that there's so many people being helped in different ways by them, and we have to make it easier. Kennedy revealed his son successfully went on an ayahuasca journey that helped him heal from the trauma of losing his mother as a young boy.
Yeah. When he came back from the trip, he was completely changed. He was very open about talking about his feelings. He was a real spiritual quest, Kennedy said at a town hall discussion. I thought the story would open up more because it says read more, but I did click on the link and it just takes it to...
It's the same story in a different form.
Correct.
Yeah, I did the same thing.
Yeah, so there you go. You know, somebody within the administration talking positive.
It is. It's really exciting to see that. You know, and as much as he's, you know, kind of tried to ignore the whole cannabis thing, you know, kind of putting somebody in there that's all for psychedelics has kind of made me raise my eyebrows. I went, might watch this for a while.
Yeah,
see what happens.
On. Yeah. All right. On to our last story before we go to break. What's up?
Yeah. Coming to us from the Portugal News. First psychedelic meets much felt need in depression.
As president of SPPSM, I can only see the approval of a new therapeutic tool and its funding in Portugal as very positive, which fills a need that is deeply felt by our population, specifically in the area of depression, in the most resistant cases. I think it is good news for everyone, says J.O. Pezza. Now, the president of SPPSM commented on the approval by infamed of the first psychedelic for severe depression of the first psychedelic for severe depression to be used in a hospital setting.
In a statement, the National Authority for Medicines and Health Products, which is informs that the medicine in question, Spravato, is now being financed for use in a hospital environment in adults with treatment-resistant major depressive disorder who have not responded to at least 3 different treatments with antidepressants. Bessa, we're going to go with just the last name there, however, regretted the delay in approving Spravato, which is already used in most European countries.
It is clearly late. That is, despite the generation of evidence that has been carried out in recent years in this area and the approval of this new therapeutic tool in most European countries, in Portugal, we will only have this hypothesis financed in the national health system, he says.
According to the decision dated May 7th, Spravato, in association with 2 other antidepressants, may be used with combination or oral potentiation strategies in the concurrent moderate to severe depression episode in adults who have previously undergone psychotherapy and have resistance or contraindication to electroconvulsive therapy, do not have access to or have refused this therapy. This information comes on the same day that a working group that includes medical, pharmaceutical, and psychological associations and the National Ethics Council presents a set of recommendations for the clinical use of psychedelics, arguing that they should be classified as medicines. Absolutely. Oh my goodness. They want to do electroconvulsive therapy?
Yeah, that's, yeah. I can see the ooh.
Wow.
Yeah, more wows.
All kinds of wows.
Kinds of wows. First 4 stories caused lots of wows, but it's time for us to take a break. All right, we're going to take a wow break. And we'll be right back. You're watching Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News. We're live here at peaceradio.net and at 420pace.ca. Gotta make sure I get the right intro here. There we go.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. Open Monday to Friday from 10 till 7 p.m. or by chance. Check out our flags, our t-shirts, plus our hats. And look of that supply of rolling papers, plus much more. We've got bongs and your favorite herbal vaporizers. Look at all the incense we have, as well as for those who collect knives, check out these knives in our collection. And while you're here, stop in to see Shay at the piercing room, where you can get poked by Shay. Daily deals, check them out. Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford, Ontario. Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit.
Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420. Rerolled Saturdays. Check it out. Nothing but non-stop cannabis and psychedelic programming. Find it at 420pace.ca. You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
And you're watching Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News. We got 4 more stories to go, and we're going to go back to Malta.
To Malta?
Back to Malta in our first story from the break. Here we go. What's up?
Coming to us from International Cannabis Business Conference. Malta's parliament approves changes to adult use cannabis laws.
All right, here we go. Malta becomes the first country in Europe to adopt a national adult use cannabis legalization measure back in 2021. The only countries to approve national recreational cannabis legalization before Malta were Uruguay in 2013 and Canada in 2018. Now, roughly 4 years after Malta implemented its legalization model, the nation lawmakers unanimously approved changes to the country's cannabis laws. Part of the changes clarified the definition of cannabis and put stricter regulations on cannabis associations.
The bill includes new rules which would require a minimum distance of 250 meters from schools, sports facilities, and youth centers. Any association found allowing minors on site could face a fine of up to €10,000. And this is reported by Malta Independent and its local coverage. It also clarifies the definition of what counts as cannabis under Maltese law, with the clearer legal definition including both THC and CBD. And non-psychoactive cannabinoids with less than 0.2% THC will be excluded, the outlet also stated.
The Malta Authority for the Responsible Use of Cannabis recently introduced an amendment to its regulatory framework to allow cannabis harm reduction associations, sometimes referred to as cultivation associations, to produce and distribute cannabis concentrates. Concentrates are restricted to solventless extraction methods only. This measure addresses a critical gap in the current framework. Until now, individuals who preferred resin had no legal avenue to access it, often turning to unsafe, unregulated sources. By extending legal access to resin, ARUC is supporting informed, responsible use while strengthening the harm reduction aspects of the reform. According to the website.
To prevent unintended increases in consumption, the ARUC has established a clear equivalency rules. 1 gram of resin will be considered the equivalent of 3 grams of dried flower due to its typically higher potency, the ARUC also stated. The existing personal possession and distribution limits, 7 grams per day and 50 grams per month, will remain in force and will now apply to the combined total of dried flower and resin equivalents. Currently, 19 cannabis harm reduction associations have obtained an operating permit, although it's worth noting that not all of these are dispensing cannabis to members right now, with some still being in the early stages of operation.
The personal possession limit of 50 grams per month? Wow. That's not a lot of cannabis for some people. It's lots for some, but it's not a lot for a lot of patients that I know.
Well, no, it doesn't really go with 7 grams a month either, like, to be honest.
Well, 7 grams a day. Yeah. It only gives you a week. So.
If I can get 7 grams a day, why wouldn't I go back and just get 7 grams a day? But are they going to cut you off at 50 grams a month?
That's what I'm thinking. That's
because 50 divided by 7. That only gives you a week's worth of cannabis, right?
Yeah, exactly. Maybe that'll be in the next changes of laws that they have coming up. So
it's interesting.
All right.
Those are the numbers they pick.
Talking about changing laws, I think our next headline tells us the country south of us should change theirs. There we go.
Coming to us from Ganjapreneur, report: U.S. cannabis sales reached $30.1 billion in 2024. Oh, the taxes they missed out on.
Oh, yeah. U.S. cannabis sales grew to over $30 billion in 2024. That's a 4.5% year-over-year increase, according to the third annual Banks Jobs report produced in partnership with Whitney Economics. Now, cannabis employment fell slightly in 2024. The industry supports an estimated 425,000 full-time roles after dropping 15,443 positions in 2024, a 3.4% decrease from the previous year, according to the report. Now, the biggest job growth occurred in emerging markets, including New York, Mississippi, and Ohio, and the report forecasts the cannabis industry to grow by another 13% in 2025, reaching $34 billion for something that's federally illegal.
Yeah. Carson Humiston, Vank's founder and CEO, said the changes reflect a shift towards operational discipline in the industry. This recalibration reflects a maturing industry focused on sustainability and efficacy. Despite a slight decline in jobs, cannabis remains one of the nation's leading employment sectors, with over 425,000 full-time roles and revenue projected to grow more than 13% in 2025. The industry is still a powerful economic engine. And this is coming from a press release in Humiston.
Right. Now, Bo Whitney, the chief economist at Whitney Economics, said cannabis companies are adopting more disciplined hiring models and staying resilient through challenging conditions. With $30 billion in retail sales and major job growth in new markets like New York and Ohio, the long-term outlook for cannabis remains incredibly strong, Whitney says in a statement.
Wow.
There you go.
Yeah.
So all that money, all those jobs, but it still says federally illegal. It's just makes me Here we got some comments from Shadow. Shadow says that here we go. It won't come up. Come on, there we go. Is black market or legal market or both? I'm going to say that it is probably just the legal market, like as far as state legal market, because federally it's not legal, right?
Yep. Yeah, I would have to agree. They're talking about legal, and I mean, like, even though it's federally illegal. Well, no, they're looking at the money, and they're looking at the money that has been brought in per state. So that's all legal stuff that they're looking at. Yeah,
exactly. So, all righty. Time for us to move on to our next story. Here we go. It is ready to go.
Coming to us from Medical Press, psychedelics may induce right brain dominance, research proposes.
The secret to psychedelic drugs, links to greater empathy and insight, may lie in their ability to coax the right hemisphere of the brain into a position of dominance over the left, according to a proposed new theory. Researcher Adam Levine, I don't think he's the lead singer, has combined his experience in therapeutic psychedelics research and psychedelic training with a review of imaging, numerous studies, and previous models to support his proposal, which was published in the Journal of Psychopharmacology.
In this context, Levine emphasizes not what the two brain hemispheres do, but how they approach a topic or task, working in parallel with left brain dominance during typical modes of consciousness. When we're solving a problem or evolutionarily speaking, hunting for food, for example, the scope of attention differs. The left hemisphere focuses on manipulation of individual parts, while the right hemisphere maintains a big picture frame of reference.
Yes. Now, Levine goes on to say, in the psychedelic state, there's a unique combination of the hemispheres coming together in a way that doesn't usually happen in normal states of consciousness. It's almost a new encounter between the left and the brain hemispheres' way of thinking and perceiving the world.
Yes, he calls this model of psychedelic attention heals. Hemispheric annealing and lateralization under psychedelics. In effect, he suggests psychedelics reverse the hierarchical relationship between the two hemispheres of the brain, releasing the right hemisphere from inhibition by the left. Levine was initially inspired in part by the writings of Ian McGilchrist, who is the author of The Master of His and His Emissary, The Divided Brain and the Making of the Western World. But his own clinical experience as a medical student and psychiatry resident gave Levine an up-close look at how disorders affecting one side of the brain or the other affect a patient's world's view.
Yeah, he says, in people who lose the right hemisphere to stroke, the attentional window gets so narrow and they don't even recognize the whole half of the world. He says that, where we go? I lost it again. Whereas people with an intact right hemisphere who lose their left hemisphere still have a broader general picture of things. He says a lot of these people's experiences seem, to me, to be similar to what I'm seeing in my psychedelic research. Now, previous hypothesis, where did it go? It jumped.
Previous hypotheses about psychedelics' effects on the brain have suggested unrestrained cognition occurs through the weakening of control exerted by frontal lobes and the top of the brain.
Yeah, I've still lost it. Keep going.
Okay, well, that is likely true. Levine said patterns observed in people's reports of their psychedelic experiences suggest there's more going on. There are increases in psychological flexibility, creativity, and social and emotional intelligence, greater empathy, harmony, and connection, a broader attentional window toward novelty and aliveness, and clarity and insight about one's basic existence, and in some cases, need for healing. Go ahead.
Yeah. Those general feelings or patterns are awfully similar to the pattern of the right hemisphere, he says. And I think psychedelics provide access to this whole picture, this whole view that could have been operating in the background. And that's this right hemisphere view. Restoration of this natural balance is an interesting way of explaining some of what's happening. Now, neuroimaging studies of lateral changes to brain blood flow and metabolism, brain regions use of glucose that Levine analyzed showed signs of heavy activity in the frontal lobes in the right hemisphere, as well as an overall rightward shift in metabolic activity under psychedelics.
The growing evidence that mindfulness meditation practice is linked to building new networks in the brain and increasing brain thickness in the right hemisphere is relevant to the heals theory as well. Psychedelics have been linked to improvements in mindfulness with just one or two uses, and sometimes these capacities are almost at levels consistent with practiced meditators, Levin said. That makes it likely to me that many core right-sided networks that are enhanced with practicing meditation might be enhanced briefly or maybe longer through psychedelics.
And I keep going, it jumped again on me, so I've lost.
Okay, I think there's an opportunity after the use of psychedelics to increase and sustain mindfulness capacities in these areas of the right hemisphere.
I found it. We're good.
Okay.
The field of psychedelic research is focused on therapeutic applications at Ohio State and elsewhere, but Levine expects that expansion of the field will stimulate pursuit of other research questions, including testing theories about how these substances act on the brain. he considers heals a complement to earlier theories about psychedelic action and expects the growth in research to produce more hypotheses.
I think to explain something as complex as the brain, especially in a human being, you need a variety of theories to more closely approximate what's actually happening, he said. If we get too fixated on one explanation or the other, we're going to lose track of reality.
And there you go. There you go. Shadow says, so can you imagine the money that's being made by nobody, but that nobody knows about? Oh yeah. Yeah. There's lots of money being made that nobody knows about. There's no doubt about that. Alrighty, so there we go. Last story of the day is coming up, and I can't remember when this all was being sort of talked about online, but here we go.
Yeah. Coming to us from StratCan, questions arise from Winnipeg police targeting cannabis consumers.
Yeah, a man in Winnipeg who was swept up in a recent police effort to target people shopping at cannabis stores says his driver's license was suspended despite not being under the influence of cannabis. Now, Sean Vipod, 30, recently told CBC that he was one of the 97 people swept up by the Winnipeg police who were targeting people that police said were shopping at cannabis stores.
I see this a lot, actually. Despite testing positive for cannabis in the roadside stop, Vipon said he was not impaired by cannabis, not having consumed it for nearly a full day prior to being pulled over in February after stopping at a cannabis store. Police told me to my face that there was no visible reason for suspicion, Vipon told CBC. It was just purely on the basis of I had bought weed and then drove.
That was it. To see, it says Winnipeg police, boasting about this and acting like everybody who was caught was recklessly smoking during the day and driving high, when that's really not the reality of it. It's humiliating, he added. And in April, police in Winnipeg said they had been targeting cannabis store customers as part of an ongoing impaired driving enforcement campaign.
I'm not going to say which store I was at, but one of the cannabis stores here in Nova Scotia, and as we know, all but one are in liquor stores. I was in purchasing cannabis, and when I purchased it, they said, please go put this in your trunk because the police are outside targeting people leaving here with small bags.
Wow, really, eh?
Yeah. So, like, I mean, and this was, government store. Just make sure you're seen putting it in your trunk. So yeah, it was quite interesting. Yeah. Between January and March of 25, the Winnipeg Police Service Central Traffic Division launched an enforcement campaign that they say focused on drivers under the influence of cannabis and other illicit drugs. During the campaign, officers conducted 302 traffic stops and administered 207 drug screening tests using approved screening equipment. Nearly half of those drivers, 97 of them, tested positive for recent cannabis consumption. This was similar to the rate of those tested in a similar campaign in 2024.
Now they stopped 302. They tested 207. Wonder what, other than the fact that they were coming from a cannabis store, why did they, why did those 100 people not get this drug screening test?
But exactly. And if you're coming from a legal cannabis store, because I assume they're talking legal cannabis store, you can't consume in any of them.
No.
So if you're walking out with a bag you haven't consumed, that makes no sense to me.
They're just assuming that you consumed before you went in. So now all drivers, including Fitpod, faced an immediate roadside suspension of their license. Only one driver was said to have been charged criminally for refusing to be tested. Now, during a press conference in April, Winnipeg Police Patrol Sergeant Stephen Fontaine said that he focused the campaign on areas around the more than 100 cannabis stores in Winnipeg.
There are over 130 or so dispensaries throughout the city of Winnipeg. So what I did was I made a plan to basically target those areas where there's dispensaries, and we watch traffic coming to and from those known shops, Fontaine said. The officers still have to form the proper grounds to make all of their lawful demands, but that's where they spent their time. He also noted that many of these individuals were testing positive on their way to a cannabis store, although he did not indicate how officers knew their destination. Fontaine added that most drivers who tested positive for THC were found between 3 p.m. and 6 p.m., which he notes is different from the enforcement against those impaired by alcohol.
The 420. Strachan sent a request for further information to the Winnipeg Police Services in April, asking for more info into how Winnipeg Police selected vehicles for drug screening tests, or how they had determined if a driver was on their way to a cannabis store, but was told that as the questions speak to operational tactics, they will not be able to respond.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Winnipeg police say they used an oral swab to detect cannabis. The accuracy of oral swab tests and blood tests have been challenged by different researchers. A 2014 study found that THC could be detected in oral fluid for up to 8 days after admission, leading to false positives.
Yeah, I was part of two of those studies when they were holding them here in Nova Scotia. And, I specifically went in not smoking anything all day, not eating it, and I tested like I was, completely incapacitated. And then the other one I smoked all day, and I was told I was fine.
Yeah.
And I was high.
Yeah,
like admittedly high, right? So yeah, it was quite interesting. A 2024 study in Ontario looking at the effects of edible cannabis on simulated driving and blood THC levels found that driving impairment was not correlated with blood THC. Police in Winnipeg recommended not driving for 12 hours after consuming edible cannabis products.
Penalties for driving while impaired for cannabis can include criminal charges, loss of one's driver's license, vehicle impoundment, and fines. Police can use both oral testing equipment and assessments from the drug recognition officers. In Canada, drivers with over 2 nanograms of THC but under 5 nanograms per milliliter of THC can face a straight summary conviction offense. Drivers found with over 5 nanograms in the blood can face a drug alone hybrid offense.
Wow. Drivers found with over 2.5 nanograms of THC per milliliter of blood combined with 50 milligrams of alcohol per 100 milliliter of blood can face a hybrid offense. The penalty for the summary conviction offense is a maximum of $1,000. The penalties for the two hybrid offenses are the same as for alcohol impaired driving. These include mandatory minimum penalties of $1,000 fine for a first offense, 30 days imprisonment for a second, and 120 days imprisonment for a third.
Harrison Jordan, the managing lawyer for Substance Law firm focusing on regulated substances, including cannabis, tells Strachan that he could see future attempted challenges to the law behind such charges, but notes that the court's decisions thus far have not struck down the law. While consumption may not necessarily equal impairment when it comes to cannabis, it's the best corollary law enforcement has right now, he explains, noting that the evidence of such testing determined impairment is mixed.
Mm-hmm. Unless and until the science becomes crystal clear, or there is some better, more reliable, scalable, and deployable way to measure impairment instead of just blood levels more precisely, we're likely to have this framework remain in place. A judge is going to be super cautious about removing a tool that law enforcement says is effective at detecting and deterring risky driving. Someone charged with at least 2 nanograms but less than 5, which is a straight summary offense, may have a slightly easier time attempting to challenge that offense, as the degree of evidence that blood level is correlated with impairment or increased risk of vehicular accidents is likely lower than the evidence for 5 nanograms and above, which is viewed as a more serious hybrid offense.
So there you go.
Mm-hmm.
The target the stores. That means they could target stores anywhere, like that. Right? And some people, the people who drink alcohol, would say, well, they target us because they park down the road, set up their ride programs from bars.
Well, you know what? Give us, bars to go smoke in and then park down the road. That's fine. But they don't do that. They don't, breathalyze people as they're walking under the liquor store.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Shadow says being pulled over. His concern says that he's concerned about being pulled over after I pulled out of my favorite dispensary, which is true.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. We can stop and search. Yeah, yeah. He says they don't care. They don't care for your luck here. Yeah, yeah. And their job is try to find impaired drivers. And the unfortunate thing is that, as they said in the article, the judges won't change anything until the police come up with another way of
They're
finding it.
believing
And
the
if they're
police
getting
now
people,
that
if they're getting people at this level, and if it's not really an impaired level, they're not going to push for something that's going to say that these people aren't impaired.
Now, this isn't an impaired level for you or I. Let's
No.
clarify that. Now, somebody who has, discovered cannabis and just started using it, they may not be able to drive at that level because they're not used to it. Their body hasn't adjusted. Like their body's being overwhelmed with cannabinoids that they have been denied for years. So
I know of a newbie that ate 10 milligram edible, and they couldn't drive.
I know a newbie that ate. He's like 2.5 times the size of me. Had 5 milligrams, 5, and he was out for a day and a half.
Yeah, but I could imagine that the nanograms in their blood would be less than the 2. Like they just ate one gummy.
Yeah.
Or
I don't know, but I would be interested in studying people like that to see what their blood and their saliva says.
Yeah. We need more testing. Isn't that we need more research?
More testing.
We need more testing, more research. If they can call for it, so can we, right?
Right.
Okay. That's what I thought. All right. Anything else that you want to mention before we say goodbye?
I just want to tell you something about one of the things in Amsterdam. When I was over there, I find this very interesting because a lot of our people are standing up for cannabis and other psychedelics to help heal people, especially from addiction. It's a pandemic here in North America, especially in Canada and the United States. When I was in Amsterdam, I saw 2 people begging on the road. Two. That was it. I saw 2 homeless people begging on the road, compared to the many that we have here. And as well, I saw one of those 2 people, one person, and he was, I don't know what illicit substance he was using. I don't know if it was crack or meth. It was something that you put in a pipe and you burn. So it could have been, one of a few different things. So I don't know what he was doing, but he was doing and didn't bother anybody. He didn't get to a community. He didn't go out. And they have legal flop houses, where people just go and if they don't have a place to go, they can just go. And they're legal. A bunch of people who used to have to do it pooled their money. They bought a place. They have some stuff going on, I think a cafe and whatnot on the bottom floor that helps to pay for the rest of the floors. And then they open up the rest of the floors for people to go stay if they need. So that really caught my eye when I was over there, and doing what we do on the network, and the fact that we support it for many medical reasons, and some of those being, of course, recovering from addiction and whatnot. They're doing something right. There are test strips in the stores. You can go into so many stores and get test strips so you can test your drugs, specific testing for cocaine or fentanyl or crack. And it's all there for anybody to buy. And I just wanted to give a shout out that they're doing something right because it seems to be working.
Now, is there any way that somebody can get their blood tested for how much THC is in their blood without having to require a lab?
I don't know.
You know, for curious, like,
but like when I saw the test strips, there were THC testing strips in that as well. Like, I mean, I work at a head shop, and you can get THC testing strips for saliva and urine at my shop.
correct. Yeah, but does it tell you whether you're 2 nanograms or 5 nanograms?
No, but it does give you layers
Was it?
of testing. So it'll tell you if you're 15 or under, 30 or under, etc.
And that's nanograms or 30?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Be interesting. Should look into that.
So it was just really interesting to see how they handle everything over there, and the fact that, like, I mean, I was in their capital city. I walked around the red light district in their capital city, and if you're going to see that anywhere, that's where it's going to be. And like I said, 2 people, and only one of them was using.
And that was it, eh?
That was it.
Now, as far as driving in, Shadow's got some advice. Shadow says, if you stop, don't talk, get a lawyer immediately, and invoke your 5th Amendment. You must say it, he says. So there you go. All righty. Other than that, done.
Great weekend.
All right. Yeah, exactly. Have a great weekend. Long weekend, too. That's right. No news.
So we're not here until Thursday.
That's right. A week.
Oh, well. See y'all Thursday. Well, Tuesday.
See y'all next week. Exactly. All right. That's our report for today. Thanks to our buds at Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, Limestone, Hydroponics.ca. And don't forget, you can order stuff online. They'll send it to you. I got stuff within 24 hours. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And we also got to say thanks to At-Eze.ca. And as always, we say thank you. And don't forget to educate, medicate, and do not incarcerate.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420. We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.